So this is the first part of a series where we are going to explore the world of conditional formatting in Google Sheets with Google Apps Script, or more specifically, how to work with ranges with conditional formatting in Google Apps Script, which is surprisingly a little tricky. So the goal of this video tutorial is to match a specific range and clear exactly that range. So let me explain what I want to clear out of this sheet here. I'm just going to select this entire range so we can see all the conditional formatting. Right click, down to conditional formatting. So we've got B6, B14, B22, B30. So these are these red ranges. We want to keep them. Our goal is to get rid of these B4 to B7, and then B12 to B15, B20 to B23, B28 to B31. So it's going to be this orange and blue one we want to remove with an exact match, but not remove this one, nor remove this one. Let's close that conditional formatting now. Now on the left hand side here is my Google Apps Script file, and if you want to play along, and I encourage that you do, there's a copy of the starter sheet in the link in the description below. This will reveal your spreadsheet here just like this, along with the Google Apps Script file that you can find in extensions, Google Apps Scripts from the menu up the top here. So go ahead and make a copy now and come back. There, you're back, good stuff. So in your Google Apps Script file, you'll have a code.js file here ready for us to do some coding in, and then there'll be a test file here. Let's have a look at the basic skeleton of this function we're going to create. I've already made some notes here, so it clears the conditional formatting for the exact range or ranges. So we're going to handle for a single range being entered or multiple ranges being entered. Now it's going to take two parameters. The first one is the sheet, the spreadsheet sheet, which is spreadsheet at.sheet. And it'll also take the range, which will be the spreadsheet app range object or an array of spreadsheet app.range objects, as we can see, identified by range or ranges. Over in our testing file here, when we run the test, nothing's going to happen because there's nothing inside it, but we'll be running our test from this section here. First, we'll get the spreadsheet with spreadsheet at get active spreadsheet. Then we'll grab the sheet, which is going to be test one here. So I've pasted it over here. Next, we'll do a test on a single range. Any conditional formatting that has a range from B4 to B7, we want deleted, but we don't want this red one. We just want these orange and blue ones deleted. And then we're going to run our function with multiple ranges. So it's going to be this set of ranges followed by this set of ranges and then followed by this set of ranges, all in one operation. And that's going to call the clear conditional formatting range, which we'll build in a second. Okay, let's get our clicky clacky on. Let's head over to code.js and head inside our clear conditional formatting range. And just to make it a bit easier for you to see, let's zoom in a little bit. There we go. And give ourselves a bit of space down the bottom. Cool. All right, so the first thing we need to do is to check if our parameter range of ranges is an array or it's not. And so let's go ahead and do that now with const. And what we'll do if it isn't an array of ranges is we'll convert it to an array of ranges. So we can say const range is equals range or ranges. So we'll grab it here. And we're going to use the very rarely used constructor method here. And this just allows us to see what type of object that we're dealing with. And it will spit out whether it's an array or a string or an object. And we want this to return, if this returns an array, which will occur in our second condition here where we've generated this array here, we'll use a ternary operator here. So if it is an array, then we don't want to do anything. We'll just have range and ranges spit back. Otherwise, we will turn that range or ranges into an array by encapsulating it into square brackets. There we go. Cool bananas. And just so it'll help us with our typing in future, let's just declare what the ranges is by creating a type with some js.magic. And that type is going to be spreadsheet app.range now. And it is definitely an array of ranges. Okay. Now we need to convert this array of ranges into A1 notation here. Now, why didn't we just request A1 notation back here? You probably could. You could just make the function receive A1 notation, but there are some things you might be building. Perhaps you're setting an array, or you're deleting the data or certain data in that range, or making edits to make it bold or something else, changing the formatting. So usually taking that data as a Google Apps spreadsheet app range. So we handle it this way. Also, in future tutorials, as we expand on this approach and make things a little bit more difficult, it's going to be handy to have the actual range there. Okay, but in this example, we're just going to convert it back to A1 notation. So we'll say const target range is, and these are going to be ranges, and we will map these ranges. The bit of R equals arrow function R dot get A1 notation. Okay, so in each iteration of these ranges, we have a spreadsheet app dot range, and that's going to be range dot get A1 notation. And it allows us to see this A1 notation appear because we put this type in here, so Google Apps Scripts knows what we're dealing with. So that's sort of the same idea, so we'll keep those two together. So the next thing we need to do is to get our spreadsheet app conditional formatting rules for this specific sheet. Now we've already brought in the spreadsheet app sheet here, so let's use that sheet and create the current rules. So const cur for current underscore rules is equal to sheet dot get conditional formatting rules. And that's going to bring in the existing rules here. One of the unusual things in conditional formatting with AppScript is that you can't just subtract, or you can't just get one specific rule. You have to get all the rules for the entire sheet tab. And then if you want to update a rule or clear a specific rule, you have to store those rules like we have here, and in a variable, iterate through them, clear the one you don't want out, and then rebuild the rules with the remaining rules.
It is just so hard.
So these current rules is going to provide an array of rules that we'll iterate over and check them against our current conditions in our target ranges here. If there's a match, we'll delete them out. If there isn't a match, we'll keep them in. Now, we don't have to rebuild a rule if there's no effect on that particular range. So we want to just have a little check in place here that we'll call has range change. And we'll handle for that later, but we'll say has range change equals false. So if there's no range change, there's no point updating that specific rule. We don't have to waste the time processing anything there. And we can move on to the next conditional formatting rule. Okay, so we're into the business end of things now. We've done all our pretty setup. So the first thing we need to do is to iterate over the current conditional formatting rules. And what we want to return is all the updated rules. Now we can do this with some functional programming methods, and we'll use the reduce method here. And it's another great way for us to learn more about how to use this reduce method. So let's create a new variable called updated rules as opposed to current rules. And that's going to be equal to our current rules. And here we'll apply reduce. And reduce requires a previous value, and we can use that previous value to add to it to generate an end result. And quite often the case, the shorthand for this is called ACC for accumulator instead of previous. Then we're looking at what we're going to iterate over. So for us, that's going to be our current rule. So we'll use a shorthand here for C rule, for current rule. Okay, and this should be in the brackets here. That's prettier. And let's do a little arrow function now. And then we're going to curly braces to do all our processing in. But we also need to declare with our reduce our initial value. And that initial value is going to be an empty array. And then we'll close our brackets here. And let's just drop this into a new line and get some processing done. We've got our iterator all ready to go. Let's talk about a conditional formatting rule. So each conditional formatting rule can exist in multiple locations. So let's go back over here and we'll select this range again, just so you can quickly see. conditional formatting. You can see in this example, we've got multiple locations where this rule occurs. So we need to iterate over each one to check if there is an exact match with A1 notation for our target ranges. To do that, we're going to use another reduce method here. So first we need to get our ranges for our current rule. So we can say const c rules, current rule, ranges, and that's going to be equal to crule.getRange. Okay, so it's going to get our ranges now. Now we need to create another constant variable. This is going to be our remaining rule A1 ranges. So anything that didn't match our target ranges here is going to be put in those remaining rules. So let's make a variable called remaining rule A1 ranges. So remaining rules in A1 notation and their range is, that's going to be equal to crule ranges. Oh, that's confusing. Let's make a crule ranges with an SA. Good stuff. And then let's make, use reduce again. So there's an inner reduce here. And so it's not to confuse things. It will have an accumulator number 2. And then we want a R for our ranges. And a little arrow function, curly braces to put stuff in. And then our initial value is also going to be an array. Cool bananas. All right, let's do some work inside this reduce. Okay, so what's the first thing we need to do in our reduce here? So if range matches, we just want to delete it. So we'll say if tgt, so if our target ranges includes, remember this is an array, so we can use the includes method, which is going to quickly iterate through the array until it finds a match. If it finds a match, it'll stop its iteration and it'll say there is a match. So if it includes r.get A1 notation here. Now remember our R is, so each of these ranges for our C rules range. So if there is a match in A1 notation, then we want to declare that has range change is true first. So we'll say has range change equals true. And then we want to return ACC2. So we don't want to do anything. We just want to return whatever's currently been added into our accumulator in this second level of ranges. However, if there is a match, we want to say return ACC2 is equal to ACC2.concat.r. Okay, so that means if there isn't a match, we want to keep it and we want to add it back into this array here that we're building, and that will then be stored in our update rules. Okay, this is probably a fairly good time for us to do a little test here. We can console log inside this first reduce these remaining rules A1 range, just so we can see what we got. Hit save and head over to our test here. Let's just comment out this one. We'll just do one test for the time being and we'll hit run. Go through our authorization for the first time. Oh, we've got error in 24 of code here. Let's have a look at that. Oh, that's because we used we need to use two equal signs. Say, is it equal to an array? We're safe. Silly us. Okay, run our test. Cool. So it looks like it's iterating over those ranges. And it's returning the entire range information or range object. Good stuff. Okay, let's move on. Let's clear out that. We can comment that out. Okay, so now that we've got our remaining rule, A1 ranges, we also want to check what happens if with a particular conditional formatting rule, it only has one range and that range we removed. So we don't want to reapply that to our conditional formatting rules, do we? So we have to account for that. So still within this outer reduce, we need to get the length of the remaining rules. Okay, so let's add in a comment here. We'll say const remaining rules A1 ranges length is equal to remaining rules A1 ranges length. And then we will say if the remaining rules A1 ranges length is equal to 0, then we want to return the accumulator for this one up here. So we want to just return ACC back into this array and don't include that entire rule. However, if there is still a range left over, we need to add it back into this array here for this update rules to update. So if there is a remaining range in a rule set, do some stuff. So we'll say if, and here we are using our has range now. So if has range change, which it did, then we want to do some stuff. And let's add a little console note in here for us. So console.log, log even, and we'll say range has been removed, updating, ... And now we need to make a copy of the rule set. So we will go let C rule copy, conditional formatting rule copy, and that's going to be equal to C rule dot copy. Okay, so that C rule is this rule here we're iterating over each time through this reduce statement. So we want to make a copy of it so we can add it into a new rule set. And here we need to reset the ranges of this current rule we're iterating over, right? We've just done an iteration over a rule. This section was an iteration over the ranges inside that rule, but now we're back outside to the main rule here and we need to update those ranges. So let's go C rule copy now. And we've got some options. And that option is to set the ranges of the one we copied, of the rule we copied. So set ranges. And those ranges are going to be our remaining A1 ranges. And then we just need to rebuild that rule. So C rule copy dot build bonza. Okay, and once we've done all that, we need to add this rule back in to our update rules. And we can do this with our accumulator. So ACC is equal to ACC concat. And what do we want to concatenate? We want to concatenate the C rule copy, right? Done. And then here we can return the accumulator. Now, if the range wasn't impacted, if there wasn't a match and we didn't delete out a range, we don't want to do all this work, right? So we've got this has range change here to tell us that if it's still false, then we just want to add that rule back in. So then we can go ACC is equal to ACC.concat C rule. And then return ACC. Donezo. Okay, so we've done our reduce statement and have rebuilt all our rules in our update rules. The last thing we need to do is to put those rules back into the current sheet. This will wipe out all the existing rules, so that's why we've done it the way we have. So sheet.set conditional formatting rules and update rules. Hit save. Okay, so if everything worked out hunky-dory, we should see these items here removed, but this red one should stay the same, and then the green exact matches should overtake these ranges here as well. And we'll just do it for the first range first, so just this range here, which is what we're testing with this. So we'll hit run. We'll unclick over here and we'll hit run. Awesome. So we saw that these ranges were removed, but even though this outer green range encapsulated or covered the target range, it still remained the same. So it took over and became that range. So I'll just hit Control-Z to bring that back. And we can have a look in our conditional formatting as that happens. And I'll just bring this over a little bit. Okay, so what are we looking at this section here? So we should see this one be removed, and same with the blue one. Okay, let's go back and give it another spin. Cool, and that range was removed from here. Now it still exists if I select all, but you can see that B4 to B7 has been removed from these two conditional formatting rules. All right, let's hit Control Z, bring it back. Let's comment out the top one and uncomment the bottom one. Now we've got these ranges that we're going to be handling for here. So let me just select it all so you can see what's going on the side here as we run it. We'll hit save over the left-hand side in the code here and hit run. Cool. So that's impacted each one of these ranges pretty damn quickly too. And you can see all that's remaining for this range here is this B4, B7 and B4, B7. Okay, we've also got a condition we want to test where there are no more ranges in the conditional formatting rule. So we should just remove that conditional formatting rule. So let's hit Control Z to bring it all back. And let's just uncomment this one. And that should now clear out these two from the list. Let's hit save. And it'll do this one first, run through the function we just created, and then it'll run through the function we created again. Let's hit run. There it is. They're gone from the rule set. Perfect. If I hit Control A again to select the entire sheet tab, you can see they no longer exist there. Let's bring it back with a Control Z magic 2 times. There it is. Cool. Okay, so that was relatively simple. In our next tutorial, we are going to expand on this and we are going to clear all ranges within a specified field. So in the next tutorial, if we want to get rid of all the ranges within this field, it has to include these ranges here and the red range, but it won't include the green range because it's not within the selected range. And again, the same with these ones. So it's going to be the yellow, blue, and red ranges. If you want a notification of when this tutorial comes out, hit that notification bell. And if you've enjoyed these tutorials, hit that like button and subscribe. Until next time.